imagine a country just blessed with immense natural potential, strategic location on the Red Sea, even a history as a significant industrial player in Africa.
Right.
Now, picture that same country today, ranked among the poorest nations globally. It's quite a contrast.
It's a profound puzzle, isn't it? A nation with so much inherent advantage, yet facing such deep-seated challenges.
Absolutely. Our mission in this deep dive is to unpack a really insightful policy paper. It's titled Eritrea, Policies for Economic Development.
Oh, yes, the one from Eritrea is the Eritrean Research Institute for Policy and Strategy, published December 2022.
That's the one. And it doesn't just lay bare the root causes of Eritrea's current economic struggles. It also charts a potential path forward, offers concrete policy remedies, for sustainable development.
What's compelling there, I think, is that it goes beyond just analysis. It's really a detailed blueprint for what a transformed Eritrea could potentially look like.
Exactly. So for you listening, this is a shortcut to understanding the incredibly complex economic landscape of Eritrea. We'll uncover some truly surprising facts, I think, and some actionable insights. Our goal is to unpack what this paper reveals about Eritrea's past, its challenging present, and the ambitious proposals it lays out for its future. So let's get started.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's jump right into the stark reality of Eritrea today, as painted by this paper. We're talking about a country, a population maybe 3.5 to 5.5 million people, strategic location, that 1,000-kilometer coastline.
Huge potential.
Huge potential. Yet the paper's assessment is grim. People living in poverty, marginal access to basics, food, water, electricity, health facilities. What's the history here? How did it get to this?
It's heartbreaking, that contrast. The paper traces it back. It notes that Eritrea actually had a strong industrial base under Italian colonization, banks, manufacturing units.
Right, I read that.
But then came dismantling by the British,
No.
followed by a significant slowdown under Ethiopian rule, especially after 1962.
So pre-independence, some industrial muscle, then decline. But the paper points to an initial period, right after independence in 91, of real economic promise. What happened then, and what caused the shift?
You're right. There was this surge of hope. The paper highlights really impressive growth, average annual GDP growth of 10.92% between 94 and 97.
Wow.
Yeah. Fueled largely by remittances from Eritreans abroad, development aid. But this is where the paper identifies a crucial turning point. After 97, that growth just dramatically slowed.
And the paper attributes this.
It directly attributes this, according to their analysis, to the Isaias clique and the PFDJ regime, that's the ruling party, the People's Front for Democracy and Justice gaining absolute control. This, they argue, led to a state-controlled economy and significantly engagement in wars.
So a political shift fundamentally impacting the economy. How starkly do the numbers show this decline?
Oh, the statistics paint a very grim picture. That GDP growth, once soaring, plummeted 1.77%, then even negative 3.1% between 1998 and 2000.
Negative growth.
Yes. And by 2019, national debt had skyrocketed, 189.2% of GDP.
That's unsustainable.
Completely. It left the country in arrears, barred from new loans from the World Bank, the IMF. And add to that, its Human Development Index in 2019 was just 0.459. That ranked at 180th out of 189 countries, near the very bottom.
And amidst these dire stats, the paper mentions something truly shocking about mining revenue. What was that?
It's a staggering figure, actually. The paper states that $1.04 billion with a B in mining revenue from Nevsun between 2011 and 2014 was, and I quote, not used for the basic human needs of the Eritrean people.
$1 billion. Just not used for the people.
That's what the paper asserts. It's a massive amount that, if properly invested, you can imagine, could have dramatically improved lives.
That's incredibly frustrating to think about. This acute economic malaise, it's clearly led to a devastating human cost, the brain drain. What does the paper say there?
It's one of the most tragic consequences highlighted. An estimated 100,000 highly skilled Eritrean professionals are working abroad. They're effectively transforming other economies.
While their own country struggles.
Precisely. The paper powerfully states that Eritrea is throwing away 100,000 person-years of productivity every single year by denying its diaspora basic freedoms at home. It's like having this incredibly valuable asset and just letting it bleed away year after year.
A profound statement of missed opportunity. So boiling it down, what does the paper identify as the core economic problem today?
Well, it frames Eritrea's current economy as predominantly based on subsistence agriculture, which is incredibly vulnerable, Climate issues, unpredictable rains, desertification.
Right.
It also highlights a critical lack of land tenure, secure legal rights to hold land and property rights generally. That discourages any long-term investment.
Makes sense.
So the paper really stresses that a holistic approach is absolutely necessary. You need to integrate all the economic subsystems to have any hope of sustainable growth.
Okay, that's a truly bleak picture of where things stand. But the paper doesn't just dwell on the problems, does it? It offers a vision for change, starting with rethinking the government's role entirely.
Yes, it does. The central idea is a clear pivot away from the current state-controlled model. The paper proposes limiting the government's role, focusing it on essential services, defense, healthcare, education, infrastructure, communication, environmental protection.
And the rest.
Actively encourage robust private sector participation in almost every other area. That's the key shift.
That sounds like a fundamental restructuring. And for fiscal policy, what's the vision? A new Ministry of Finance in a democratic Eritrea.
The paper envisions a constitutionally mandated Ministry of Finance, operating with full transparency, handling revenue collection, budget development, internal audits, but crucially, also fostering a private accounting and auditing industry.
So external validation too, not just internal checks.
Exactly. It's about building a system with real oversight.
And I like this part. The paper emphasizes cultivating a culture where citizens and businesses don't just pay taxes passively, but actively demand accountability from officials.
Yes. That's a huge shift in civic engagement, isn't it? Connecting this to broader stability, monetary policy, and the banking system are equally vital. The paper highlights just how rudimentary the financial system is today.
It's quite the contrast with the past, isn't it?
It really is. Striking to think that before the 1960s, Eritrea had 5 Italian banks, a Barclays branch. Compare that to only 5 government-controlled institutions today.
And the introduction of the Nakfa currency in 1997, the paper suggests that was problematic.
Yes, it describes it as premature and having adverse effects. According to the paper, efforts to build central bank capacity were stalled by the regime and the ongoing conflicts.
So the future vision.
An independent central bank, the Bank of Eritrea, focused squarely on price stability fighting inflation or deflation, using standard tools like minimum reserve requirements for banks, discount rates, and transparency again. Regular publication of economic data, policy reports. It's all about building trust.
A vibrant financial sector seems core to this. The paper mentions capital markets. Why are they so important?
Capital markets are just vital for investment and for firms to grow. They let people invest in successful businesses, and they provide capital to businesses for long-term expansion. The paper envisions an Eritrean capital market authority, listing stocks, debt instruments, creating opportunities.
And what about financial inclusion, digital payments? That seems like a huge area for potential impact looking at other African countries.
Absolutely critical. The paper stresses the need for low-cost, accessible financial services for everyone, aiming for a national payment system.
Which is a world away from now.
A world away. Currently, there's this fundamental lack of basic banking, ATMs, mobile payments. The paper points to successes like Rwanda, Kenya's M-Pesa, Uganda, Tanzania's models. The idea is simple. Stimulate economic activity, alleviate poverty, and importantly, expand the tax base.
Makes a lot of sense. It democratizes access. And finally, on exchange rate policy.
Given the large Eritrean diaspora, the paper suggests a managed exchange rate. The goal is to leverage that diaspora, attract human capital, financial capital back home, foster export businesses. It's about making it attractive for Eritreans abroad to invest in their home country.
Right, recognizing their huge potential contribution. Okay, this sounds like a complete overhaul. The paper says Eritrea now is a strict command economy, state or PFDJ-owned firms dominate. The proposal, a mixed economy via privatization. How would that work?
Well, the paper outlines several methods. You could develop entirely new private facilities. You could transfer existing government enterprises, maybe partially, maybe totally, to the private sector. Or you could lease public assets for private companies to operate and manage.
And safeguards.
Crucially, the paper strongly emphasizes the need for independent regulatory institutions, sound legal frameworks, to support both producers and consumers in this new landscape.
But restructuring like this often comes with a human cost, doesn't it? Job losses, for instance. Does the paper address that?
It does, and that's highlighted as a critical consideration. Policies to address negative social impacts, like labor redundancies during restructuring, must be part of any privatization program. It has to be managed carefully.
So while some public services might remain state-owned initially,
Like electricity, water, transport, maybe?
Yeah.
The paper says the door must gradually open for private sector entry to foster competition, efficiency.
Okay. Moving to industrial and trade policy, it sounds like Eritrea is pretty isolated right now. What's the current trade situation like?
It's a very tightly controlled system, strict controls on foreign exchange, for example. An Eritrean citizen is apparently allowed only 5,000 nakfa, about 330 US dollars for monthly withdrawal.
That must severely restrict business.
Hugely, especially small businesses, local trade. And the country relies heavily on imports, bringing in 90% of its cereal consumption.
And there's a big trade deficit too, right? The numbers were stark.
Yes, exactly. Exports around USD 744 million versus imports of USD 1.15 billion in 2019. And here's something particularly striking. Eritrea holds the unique position as the only African Union member state not to have signed the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, ACFTA.
The only one.
The only one. It's also not part of other key regional blocs like COMESA or the WTO. It really points to extreme economic and diplomatic isolation.
Wow. But despite this current isolation, the paper still sees a powerful strategic advantage for Eritrea. How?
It's all about geography, isn't it? Despite the current reality, its strategic location is highlighted. Accessing markets in the Middle East, Africa, Asia, Europe, it gives Eritrea strong potential for comparative advantage if it can overcome its internal barriers.
So what's needed to unlock that?
Well, the paper says a new government would need clear policies. Human resource development, capacity building, infrastructure, manufacturing, internet connectivity. It should also actively join regional blocs. Explore opportunities like AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act.
Which it can't access now.
Right. It currently fails to meet eligibility criteria, according to the paper, because of its undemocratic nature.
So attracting investment is clearly a massive hurdle. What's the biggest bottleneck right now?
The investment climate is described as highly unattractive. For locals, diaspora, foreign investors, the only area really open, apparently, is mining. And the paper claims the regime uses those revenues to finance wars.
And bureaucracy.
Immense bureaucracy. Plus, a pervasive lack of transparency. The World Bank ranks Eritrea 189th out of 190 economies for ease of doing business. Think about that $1.04 billion in mining revenue we mentioned.
Right. No public information on where it went.
Exactly. That lack of transparency kills investor confidence.
So the path forward sounds like comprehensive reform across the board.
It is. The paper calls for reforms in investment promotion, competition policy, taxation, corporate governance, finance, infrastructure, human resources. Everything needed to create a genuinely attractive, robust, competitive environment, one built on trust.
Okay, now let's talk about investing in people and infrastructure, the foundations for growth. The paper points to a huge crisis in human resources, workforce development.
Yes, it highlights a severe shortage of well-educated, skilled workers. And it attributes this to what it calls irresponsible militaristic policies.
Like the national service.
Endless national service, forced conscription, and shockingly, the closure of the University of Asmara back in 2006. That was the country's only high academic institution.
That's just devastating for human capital. And it leads directly back to that brain drain we discussed.
It does, that bleeding of talent.
Are there proposed solutions? How do you reverse that?
The paper suggests creating a comprehensive database of Eritrean professionals abroad, a resource that could be tapped for future contributions. It also proposes developing vocational training projects in host countries, the U.S., Europe, to help young Eritreans acquire relevant skills.
With the hope they might return eventually.
Exactly, to incentivize their eventual return. The paper really hammers home that point about throwing away 100,000 person years of productivity every single year by denying the diaspora basic freedoms at home.
Let's shift to tourism. That 1,000-kilometer coastline, over 200 islands. It sounds like incredible potential, but tourism is described as rudimentary. What's holding it back?
It truly does sound amazing, doesn't it? The paper lists the endowments, exotic marine resources, historical sites, diverse cultures. It emphasizes the proven economic benefits of tourism, foreign exchange, government revenues, jobs.
Big potential impact.
Huge. For context, the World Travel and Tourism Council reported that in 2019, tourism added $169 billion to Africa's economy, employed 24 million people. Yet in Eritrea, despite studies, even a government conference back in '93, the paper says no viable action was taken by the government to develop this sector.
So another missed opportunity.
A big one. The paper stresses the need for thorough assessment in early planning, though. To avoid negative impacts on culture, heritage, the environment, has to be sustainable development.
Makes sense. What about small and medium-sized enterprises? SMEs. Globally, they're huge job creators. What's the situation in Eritrea?
Globally, SMEs are the backbone, aren't they? About 90% of businesses, over half of employment, up to half of GDP. In the U.S., small businesses create 3/4 of new jobs.
So what about Eritrea?
Well, there were some functioning SMEs under Italian rule, apparently, but they were nationalized in 1974, which led to poor management. Today, the paper says small businesses face common obstacles: lack of management know-how, limited access to loans, to markets, to technology.
So their future role.
Paramount. The paper underlines the huge importance of supporting SMEs in a post-PFDJ Eritrea for job creation, providing products and services, really acting as a vital economic engine.
Okay, finally, key infrastructure. Starting with energy, a significant deficit there.
A huge one. Annual per capita electricity consumption is about 200 kilowatts. Compare that to Norway's 23,000 kilowatts.
Wow, that comparison is stark. Over 100 times less.
It really puts it in perspective. And 80% of Eritrea's current energy needs come from biofuel, which also makes it ill-prepared for climate change impacts.
But there's a surprising element here, too, isn't there? Renewable potential.
Yes, this is where there's real hope, according to the paper. Eritrea has abundant potential for wind energy, the Assab corridor, the highlands, solar energy almost everywhere.
And other sources, too.
Potential for thermal, even gravity-assisted hydropower in the Danakil Depression. The paper suggests Eritrea could become fully self-sufficient in green energy and maybe even develop export industries like green hydrogen production, similar to what Namibia is exploring.
That's a genuinely transformative possibility, isn't it?
For a country so energy-deprived, absolutely.
And food security, beyond the unreliable rain-fed agriculture.
That's a constant challenge. The paper suggests the country needs to introduce more of a seafood culture, leverage its vast marine resources, that 1,000-kilometer coastline, hundreds of islands to address food security gaps, tap into an underutilized natural bounty.
Makes sense. Lastly, transport and communication. The paper paints a pretty dire picture there as well.
It does, transporting that potential seafood catch.
Yeah.
Inefficient due to poor infrastructure. The main Asmara-Massawa road, single lane, 60 miles can take 2-3 hours.
Goodness.
Trains are defunct. Ropeways dismantled, ports like Assab and Massawa are dilapidated, and communication. Mobile phone penetration is maybe 7%, internet connectivity around 2%, among the lowest rates in the world.
And the irony about the internet cables.
Yes. What's truly surprising, the paper notes, is that fiber optic lines carrying massive internet traffic actually bypass Eritrea in the Red Sea. They run right past.
So the opportunity there is just immense. Rebuild that critical network, connect to modern internet hubs.
It could fundamentally change Eritrea's future. It's about bridging that gap between its current isolated state and the modern connectivity essential for economic participation, global integration.
The paper finishes with quite a novel idea: rethinking administration, restructuring into equitable and effective administrative zones. What's the thinking there?
What's compelling is the intent. Maximize economic and social development across all populations. Ensure no region gets left behind.
How might that look?
Well, given Eritrea's small population, the paper suggests maybe 2 main administrative areas sharing the Red Sea coastline and its islands, perhaps with Asmara, the capital, as a third distinct entity.
Aiming to create economically vibrant regions, foster a healthier political climate, provide equal opportunity.
Exactly. It's about distributing national resources, including that valuable coastline, as equitably as possible, laying a foundation for solid, irreversible economic and social development.
It really underscores that holistic approach the paper talks about.
It does. Integrating economic, social, environmental policies for sustainable growth. It all has to work together.
What a journey through a complex but ultimately hopeful vision for Eritrea.
It truly is a remarkable proposal outlined in the paper.
So, to recap our deep dive for everyone listening, the central message from this ERPS paper seems clear. Eritrea, despite immense challenges, despite a history of economic destruction detailed in the paper, possesses extraordinary untapped potential.
And the paper's core argument is that with a fundamental shift away from the current regime's policies embracing transparent governance, a mixed economy, developing human capital, leveraging natural resources, Eritrea can indeed rise from its current state. It can fulfill that potential.
And the paper includes this interesting line, suggesting Eritrea shouldn't set the bar low by adopting typical third world examples, but rather model itself after successful developed nations.
That's an ambitious outlook.
It is, and it raises an important question, perhaps, for you listening. What can you learn from Eritrea's potential transformation, as laid out here, about the sheer power of policy and human agency, even when facing the most challenging of circumstances?